Some of the worst nutrition information I have ever had clients bring to me came from their doctor.
The number of people I've had tell me that their doctor told them to avoid carrots because of the sugar. And this isn't one doctor. I've heard this numerous times. Like, what fucking course did this doctor take that they're saying avoid carrots because of sugar?
If you have established in your mind that vegetables are toxic, a carnivore diet is the way. I've been carnivore. Like, I've tried it for 30. I will try everything.
I tried it for 2 weeks. It was awful.
It's terrible.
It was so bad. But I felt like Satan was coming out of my ass. It was terrible. It was so bad.
Jordan Syatt, world-class strength coach, nutrition expert, and entrepreneur who's helped millions cut through fitness industry myths. As Gary Vaynerchuk's former personal trainer, he's built a no-nonsense approach to strength, nutrition, and mindset. Through his Inner Circle app, he's helped thousands achieve their health and fitness goals with sustainable, science-backed methods, proving that real progress doesn't come from quick fixes, but lasting habits.
And why you and I give out free information publicly. Everyone deserves and should have access to all the information they want in order to succeed.
Jordan Syatt, welcome to the Truth Serum podcast.
Thanks for having me, man. I appreciate it.
This has been one I've been excited for because I feel like I know you, but I only social media know you.
We've had conversations like on the phone, so like I feel like I've gotten to know you, but it's different knowing someone even on the phone versus finally getting to hug you, sit down, have coffee with you, like see your facial expressions when we're talking. It's different.
It is, and that's kind of like the cool thing about social media.
Mm-hmm.
Like you actually you can kind of get, it can be the good or bad thing.
Mm-hmm.
You can kind of get to know people through there, but so many people who they are on social media is so fake.
Dude, it's bad.
You know,
it's
this more
bad,
than,
yeah.
And that was kind of one of the things. And I remember like coming into it, and I was like, I think I'm excited to meet Jordan because I already know he's just him. That's who you are on social media anyway.
Thank you, man.
Like you show the stuff that no one else would show, which is really cool. And I've waited so long, honestly, to kind of like tell you face to face how I learned about you, how I found out who you were. And everything. And it was my wife, actually. Her and I had just started dating. I was just like, I did nutrition for fighters at that point, and I would do some with Gen Pop, but I hadn't started really doing much on social media.
What year is this around?
It was, gosh, COVID messed everything up year-wise, so it was like the year before COVID.
Okay.
So
yeah. It still feels like 2020.
Yeah,
to
pre-COVID.
Me.
Yeah, that's the thing. It kind of messed everything with my dates. But that was around then, and I was telling my wife, I was like, hey, like I'm going to, my girlfriend at the time, I was like, I'm really going to like start educating on social media and trying to provide free content. And the reason is because I had discovered that as a business, I needed to start charging more.
Mm-hmm.
But I felt guilty because I have a belief that everyone should should have access to good nutrition information, regardless of your socioeconomic status. So I'm like, that's my solution. I'm going to start providing a lot of free information on Instagram and start posting. I was telling her my idea about this, and she was like, oh, like Syatt Fit. Who? She's like, Jordan Syatt. She's like, I've followed him for years. You know, you're a new boyfriend, new couple. You're like,
Yeah.
I'm like, what is this? And I'm like, I'm sitting here like telling my wife what I want to do. And she's like, oh, there's someone doing that.
There's
like,
another guy who does that.
Yeah. So I'm like, are you kidding me? I'm like, so that's what I wanted to say. And we can wrap this up.
I love that, man.
But it was cool. Like I was like, interesting. And admittedly, when I first followed you, I was kind of like, dude, I'm just being straight up. I'm gonna be completely transparent. I was like he's giving people, it didn't speak to me at first because I was like, I feel like he's giving people more outs than he is like ins to the fitness world. And I was like, why is he doing that? It took me a bit. And I'm like, I don't really know if I agree with that message. But then it was like the longer I followed, and then I had a kid, I had kids, and then I started kind of dealing more with people, not just professional athletes. I started dealing with the general population. And I started seeing all these audiences. I was like, no, like he's nailing it. He is speaking to the audience that needs this most and meeting them where they're most likely to need need that information and make those changes. So, it wasn't like I thought you were funny. I liked the attitude, but I didn't get the message until I really started seeing that that's the message everyone needs.
Yeah.
Man, and then I started changing mine a bit, and then that's when I kind of, I reached out to you and you followed me on social media, which I told my wife, I was like, hey, and then kind of formed a friendship there, and you helped me out with some things and gave me some really good advice and ideas. So I appreciate that.
Of course, man.
But yeah, I think that's been my biggest takeaway from following you. And a lot of people may not even know is like you're like 5 records in powerlifting?
Yeah.
Like 5.
A long time since I did that, but yeah. The biggest one, I deadlifted 4 times my body weight. That was
smokes.
That was like the goal for a long time. I remember the first time I deadlifted, and I was like, oh man, I like this. And then I was like, I get obsessed with stuff.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, like what's a really good deadlift? And I saw a 3 times body weight deadlift was really good. I was like, I want to do 4. And I just, for years, that's what I wanted to do.
And you were a wrestler too, right?
I wrestled too, yeah. From 8 to 18, I wrestled, and then I went into powerlifting. And then from powerlifting, then I got fat and out of shape after that. And because I was coaching Gary Vaynerchuk for a while and focusing on my business, and then got into jiu-jitsu. And so I've been all over.
Yeah, I think that's fascinating. What would you say was like the biggest inspiration for your philosophies and the way you do things now?
There's a lot. So, I mean, we were talking about Alan Aragon earlier today, and he's just like, he's the guy who I started following when I was very young, who really introduced me to the science-based nutrition. But even more important than that, or at least equally important, I vividly remember Alan did something publicly it must have been 2011, 2012, somewhere around there, maybe even a little bit earlier than that, that blew me away. And it was very simple. All he did was say, I was wrong. And he was very open about saying, I used to believe that you needed to eat every 2 to 3 hours to stoke your metabolic fire. And I was young at this time. I had like just graduated college. And to see someone come out openly and say, by the way, just so you know, I was wrong about this. New research has shown that this is correct. Man, that completely changed my life. To see anyone, but especially as a young man at the time, I think at 21, 22, seeing a man come out and say, I was wrong, I made a mistake, new research shows this is correct, that completely changed my entire life. To understand, like, it's okay to say you're wrong. It's okay to say that you made a mistake. You did the best you could with what you had at the time. And so that for me was massive in terms of understanding the power of just admitting a wrong. And then in terms of my philosophy, I think a lot of it stemmed from obviously learning the science, but from my own personal experience, wrestling, dealing with anorexia, bulimia, binge eating, and I'm sure you know, as a fighter and coaching fighters, a lot of fighters struggle with this stuff.
Oh, yeah.
And especially in that post-fighting era, when they're done with fighting, they're like, oh, wow. Like, because a lot of fighters, or even just any weight-controlled athlete, we actually even see this with physique competitors, bodybuilders, all that stuff, where they will have severe disordered relationship with food and exercise, and they'll continue to compete as a way to justify that disorder.
Oh, yeah.
And once they eventually stop competing, then they actually have to face, like, this isn't okay. I don't have another competition. I can't justify doing this anymore. And so that shaped a lot for me in terms of my approach to a more balanced relationship with food, balanced relationship with fitness and health and nutrition. And then just the overwhelming data showing that the people who are the most strict and the most rigid are not the ones who are the healthiest. They're not the ones who live the longest. The people who live the longest are not bodybuilders. They're not powerlifters. They're not people who are doing HIIT workouts 7 days a week. It's the people who are more relaxed, who can go on walks every day, have really good work-life balance. They have a good community around them. Health is so much more encompassing than just being perfect with your nutrition, being perfect with your workout routine, having the perfect set rep scheme, having the perfect split. Health is so much more than that. So I think all of these things are sort of the big blocks of my inspiration.
Yeah, and it's for me too. Like I said, it's once I let it speak to me, it really spoke to me because I have a lot of the same things. I grew up an overweight kid. and never really understood it because we didn't have a lot of money. So it's like food wasn't something that I could just go to the pantry and get food at all times. That wasn't a thing. Like, we didn't even snack. Like we had like breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Snacks weren't really a thing because we weren't going to spend the money on that kind of stuff. I was an active kid, played sports, everything. I was just from about the time, as a toddler, when post toddler, when you get that BMI rebound, I gained weight and just kept it. And then wrestling in high school was the first time all of a sudden, I was a kid. I wasn't really popular. Like I got picked on a lot. And all of a sudden I went from this like 5'10", 217-pound kid to one summer, I got up to 6 foot tall and I was down to 180 from wrestling and stretching out. It just happened. And all of a sudden people just treated me better, which is messed up.
It is.
I got, I started getting treated so much better, more respect. And I was addicted to that. And then after wrestling, I got addicted to seeing a weight on the scale that I no longer had to hit. And I didn't have to. I wasn't that weight class anymore. It wasn't. It didn't matter that I struggled with anorexia and I would starve and I would look up. Like, how many calories does this item have? Okay, and we could even be healthy things.
Yeah,
I need to do. How many burpees does it take to burn this off?
Yeah,
like I would do that stuff.
Yeah,
and then I started fighting. As an amateur, and started developing further eating disorders, anorexia, bulimia. And the thing is, you would have people compliment you like you're weighing in. They're like, dude, you're shredded. And you're like, oh, gosh.
I need to look like this all the time.
Yes.
Like, you're dehydrated, you're starved.
Yeah. And I'm like, well, what you don't know is if I didn't win I won my first fight in 9 seconds.
Oh, geez.
And when the referee went to raise my hand, my knees buckled. I was so weak. I'm like, that's what you guys don't know. And
that's so funny. That makes me think about this one time wrestling. So there was this, it must have been sophomore year of high school. I was super sick. And so I made varsity as a freshman. So I was varsity all 4 years just because I had wrestled since I was 8. So like I had more experience than a lot of the kids coming in. But one time I was really sick. And so I told my coach the night before, I was like, I'm really sick. So Evan was the kid who was like the backup. He was like, all right, Evan will weigh in tomorrow. He'll wrestle. He'll just stay home and get better. Evan missed weight.
Oh no.
So my coach texted me at like 6:30 in the morning. He was like, you got to go into school. He was like, you got to go in so you can wrestle because Evan missed weight. Meanwhile, I was like told that I wasn't going to wrestle. So then I started eating and hydrating. So then I went into school. I checked into homeroom. But then I spent the entire day, I skipped classes and I just ran up and down the stairs in a trash bag to cut all this weight. So I spent all day doing that, got down to weight, but then we had the wrestling match. And I can feel as I'm warming up for the match, my right calf is it's the cramp.
Yeah.
It's about to cramp. And it's a severe dehydration cramp. It felt like I had a bar running from my Achilles all the way up to my knee. That I couldn't move. I couldn't move my foot. And I told my coach, I was like, it's about to go. And he was like, you better win fast.
That's why I'm laughing. I know wrestling coaches' responses.
It was just like, you better win fast then. And I pinned the guy with a cradle within like 30 seconds. If I didn't do that, then I would have lost for sure. So I very much relate to that.
Wrestling is a different, it's not healthy.
No.
No. They've made some improvements, but it's not a healthy sport. It's not any of that, but it's still the best sport. I still encourage kids to do it.
The sport in and of itself is very healthy. It's the gaming, the system on the outside of it that makes it become unhealthy.
And they've tried to improve it.
Yeah.
But you still have so
There's
much
always
of that old school mentality. I've had some colleges contact me and bring me in to consult and try to change the way that they're doing it.
That's nice.
And that's huge.
Yeah.
Like Indiana University, for instance.
That's awesome.
To have like a wrestling coach.
Yeah.
Angel, their head coach, to have someone like that want to change
Especially
the way it's done.
Because the coach often is like, their job is dependent on the success of the team.
Exactly. That's huge. That's how it has to change. You have to have coaches that did it wrong the whole way growing up say, hey, we got to change this now.
Unfortunately, especially in college, they're supposed to be student athletes, but they've become athlete students.
Absolutely.
And so when the coach's job is dependent on the athlete's success, oftentimes they will not put the athlete's health and their education first. And so I remember when I was wrestling, the idea they were trying to make it appear as though they were doing good stuff. So they brought a doctor in before the season began. The doctor would come in and say, "All right, this is the lowest amount of weight you can cut." On the surface, it sounds great. The doctor was the father of one of the kids on the team, and the father wanted his son to be on varsity. So I'll never forget this. I was weighing in, and this is my sophomore year. So freshman year, I wrestled at 103. Sophomore year, I wrestled at the doctor told me I could wrestle at 103 again. But what you're doing is you're weighing in, and the coach is standing right next to the doctor, and the coach says to the doctor, "This is his weight. This is his weight," and the doctor would just sign off on it. And so it was corrupt from the perspective of the doctor was just doing whatever the coach told him to do, not what the doctor thought was actually best. Bro, I went back. I told my mom, I was like, I'm wrestling 103 again this year. This is must have been November because it was before the season began, and it was in Massachusetts, so it was snowing, snowstorm. I go back home. My mom was like, get in the car. She drove to the doctor's house. She was banging on the door. She's like, you change this. He's not wrestling 103 again because severe anorexia, severe bulimia. And like at that point, you can't force your child to eat, which is one of the scary things with eating disorders. You can't force them to do that, especially when they're a teenager. And so like he moved it up to 112. But like even while they try to make it appear as though they're doing certain things, there's always ways to game the system.
For sure. They do that. There's the pre, and now it's standard. They have the pre-hydration.
Yes.
I can't remember what they call it, but the pre-hydration thing to tell you what weight class you can be in.
Yeah.
But you can cheat that.
Yes.
1FC has the hydration test. Before
do they?
1FC, you have to do a hydration test during the week.
Okay.
You have to weigh a certain amount.
Really?
And you have to do a hydration test. But it's the same thing. You can cheat it. I'm not going to discuss how it can be cheated on here because I genuinely don't want people to do it.
Yeah.
But all that can be cheated.
Interesting.
But honestly, man, it's the parents' responsibilities. That's good on your mom.
Yeah.
I wish that would happen more. But parents will get so hell bent on this is where my kid needs to be to compete at the highest level. It's just not true.
Correct.
We see it with fighters too.
Yeah.
We see it with fighters too. The UFC Performance Institute has some really good data on this, and there's no evidence that larger weight cuts result in more success.
Especially when everyone's doing it.
Yeah.
And now we're seeing fight. I saw Bo Nickel weigh in last night. Dude, he didn't look like he was drained. He looked healthy.
Yeah. And he don't cut a lot. He also his wife is a dietitian.
Oh, interesting. Got it.
During training, just drinking water is simply not enough. I'm Tyler Minton, Master of Science in Human Nutrition and Performance Dietitian to elite athletes. Simply put, I know performance. Drinking purified water when you've been sweating is dehydrating you. Purified water, which is often stripped of essential minerals, lacks those necessary for your body to properly absorb and utilize water. Without electrolytes like sodium, potassium, and magnesium, your body struggles to maintain its fluid balance, leading to symptoms of dehydration even when you're drinking plenty of water. In my professional opinion, Protekt Hydration is the perfect electrolyte. If you're a serious athlete or anyone sweating for an hour or more each day, Protekt Hydration has the potential to change how you train and recover. Protekt Hydration is the only electrolyte I recommend to my athletes, and as a dietitian, I always have Protekt supplements in my toolkit.
He's been cutting weight correctly. I know, Bo, and we had this conversation. I'm going to have him on here because I want to discuss it. It's awesome.
He's amazing.
He has kind of like done it right since high school.
Yeah.
And that's kind of, the thing. So he didn't damage his metabolism. He didn't develop all these horrible habits. He's been doing it right for so long.
Good for him.
That he, made a career being the man and doing it correct.
Yeah.
And one of the things why I want to get him on and talk about it is I think wrestlers need to hear that message.
Yes.
Because he's one of the best.
Yeah.
It's unreal.
Yeah. 100% one of the best.
Yeah. The weight cutting is it's kind of how I made my name.
Yeah.
Working with, Max Holloway, Daniel Cormier, Khabib, all these guys in that 1 year especially, that's where I got known and more popularity. But man, like it hurt too because it's not healthy. Like it's not a good thing.
No.
I do feel like doing it on your own is hiring someone like me, working with a dietitian, working with a Performance Institute, working with someone who knows the science, not just of nutrition, because weight cutting is not nutrition science.
No.
But knowing someone who's done it and someone who's cut weight and knows what it's like, it can be far better than doing it other ways.
Yes.
But it's still not good for you.
No, it's not.
But it's never going to change. It's never, people are always, they need to fight at the same, what you weigh need to be where you fight. And you can't, there's no way to regulate that.
Yeah.
So there's always going to be weight cutting. It's just more people need to be smart about it. They need to hire professional help. And a lot of times they just need to ask themselves, like, what is it I'm trying to do? Because, we'll I was wanting to discuss this later, but when we look at the concept of calories in general, the way I try to explain it to people is caloric maintenance is like the amount of calories you need to perform your daily tasks. And if you're a fighter, like training is part of your daily tasks.
Yes.
This is how many calories I need a day to weigh the same, be it an energy balance, do everything that I'm doing. That's it. A caloric surplus is, as you know, do that plus more. Give me more energy so I can get more in that, and that's how we add mass. A caloric deficit, I like to use the term when I'm talking to an athlete, is an energy deficit. It's literally, we've established this is what you need to perform. This is less. It's literally what it is. Like, so if we have to give you less for a 6, 8, 10, 12-week camp, that means you're getting less than your body needs to perform and recover.
Correct.
That's literally the definition of it.
Correct.
And now you're going to go fight someone. That's terrible.
Doesn't make sense.
It's and by the time we get there, then we still need to cut 10 to sometimes 15% more of your body weight to get you on weight. I would much rather fighters get used to just being maybe 12% over, lose that 2% during camp just from the natural increase in intensities, cleaning up your food, lose some of that inflammation. And then just lose the last 10% in water weight. And if you show up recovered to fight week and you've only got 10% of your weight class to lose, we manipulate fiber, we do a bit of a water load, we do a little small reduction of water, and we go sweat. Like, that is an easy weight cut.
And you have more energy throughout the whole fight. Probably less stomach distress. Like, I better than I do, but I've seen a lot of people after they weigh in after a severe cut, they binge. And it's like, and that can screw them up, makes them feel terrible going into the fight, stomach distress. Like,
and I tell people too, like, you're not malnourished after a weigh-in. You're not malnourished, you're dehydrated. So we got to get the hydration part fixed before we worry about the nourishment. So we'll usually be drinking for an hour before we ever touch food. Which, that's tough. I'm like, listen, like at most you've been 6 to 8 weeks without pizza. Like, you're going to be okay for 24 more hours. Let's go win this fight. And eat as much pizza as you want for the next 24 hours. Let's stay on track a little bit. And that can be a tough thing. But again, a lot of it is fighters and athletes, especially weight cut athletes, they don't understand exactly what that means. I see it too. Like, I work with NFL athletes, and I've had that discussion with them when we look at periodizing their nutrition. Like, I had an athlete hire me last year. They wanted to hire me last year to lose a significant amount of weight during the NFL season. It's like, hey, I'm not, I don't want to talk myself out of a job because I want to work with you badly, but you're in the middle of season. We're not losing weight. If you hire me, we're going to feed you to perform, and that's it. Maybe not gain any weight, but we just need to worry about performance. But if you hire me now and have the faith in what I'm telling you, as soon as season is over, take a few weeks, go on a holiday, do what you need to, and then we'll aggressively work on weight loss. Because now you're in the period where we can do that because performance is no longer your goal. I call it goal dysmorphia. People have, like, this is
a good term.
This is what I think my goal is. I'm like, well, that's not really what your goal is by the way that you're doing things.
Correct.
And I'm like, we're not, like, right now you have a performance goal, whether you realize it or not. You signed up for that when you were an NFL athlete and season started.
Correct.
Now we'll start losing the weight. And then preseason, we already need to be at the weight you want to compete at.
Correct.
So we can train it that way and get our body, our joints used to moving you at that weight, get our speed used to that. And then we just ride that out during season.
Correct.
And adjust that way. And getting athletes to understand periodization is difficult. Getting normal people to.
I mean, it's not their job, right? It's sort of, the way I look at it is like, imagine you hire a lawyer. God forbid you need a lawyer, but like, hire a lawyer. It's like, your job isn't to understand the laws. That's their job. And so it's like, our job is to give them the tools they need to succeed, especially when they're a professional athlete. I think it's much more important for regular people to understand it because, and by regular people, I mean not a professional athlete.
General population.
General population, like moms, dads, whomever. Like, you have a regular job. You're not professional athletes. People don't understand how hard they have to work. It's all day, every day. It's much more than regular 9 to 5. But even then, there are some professional athletes who do invest a lot of time to learn and understand it. But I think our job is to give them the tools they need to help them do what they need to do without overloading them with information. If they really want to understand the science, if they wanted to understand the Krebs cycle and all this stuff, they would have went to school for it. They would have our job. So our job is to give them the best tools they have, the strategies, to help them understand as much as they need to without going super, super deep.
Yeah, and with that, it does become, I like people, and I used to like really want people to want that information. And I do, like with my general population, I want them asking a lot of questions because I want them to know, because ultimately I'm not going to be with them forever.
Correct.
Like
hopefully
people can I tell people, I'm like, listen, I want general population. I want a 3-month commitment. I'm not requiring that out of you because number one, it's American contracts or BS. Like I'm like, but I want you to mentally prepare for at least a 3-month commitment.
Yeah.
And my goal is that at the end of 3 months, we can keep working together, but hopefully you know enough now to where if you don't want to keep spending the money, maybe you don't have the money, you want to put that somewhere else because it's an investment.
Yeah.
You feel confident that you can kind of go off and do it on your own.
Correct.
And that's where I started with my own business looking at. It's like, what did you really achieve if someone worked with you for 90 days, they hit their goal, but then day 91, they started going back to where they started.
Exactly.
And that's a huge thing. With athletes, it's a little different just because it's their job. But the problem is, as soon as they retire, it's done. Like that's no longer their job. And, I have some other NFL guys who have continued to work with me post-retirement, which I love because like now we get to go to that, if you have the triangle of awareness, like aesthetics, performance, and health and longevity. Anytime you go towards one point of the triangle, you get away from the others.
Yep.
What I say, with the athletes is like, well, we don't have a choice. Right now, you're going towards the performance side.
Correct.
You have to.
That's where your salary is.
Exactly. That's how you provide your family. But now you're retired. Let's go pretty aggressively towards that.
Correct.
That health and longevity. And guess what? You're going to look better now too.
Exactly.
Because the average NFL player, I can't remember what it changes based off position, but I think the life expectancy is like 55 to 65 years old.
That's super unfortunate and not surprising at all.
No, and I'm sure head injuries are part of it for sure.
But also heart disease.
Yes.
And like all the stuff that comes from deliberately trying to be as heavy as possible. And I mean,
And it's not your job anymore. Now you got to go back to just being a normal dad or husband or person. And, like, what do you do? You're still eating the same. It's a tough thing. Even I was not a high-level professional fighter by any means. But when I did retire, it was kind of hard for me to – it was probably years where I was still going to the gym and training like it was my job. Like, well, now I'm getting hurt for nothing. Like, it's pointless. And it's a hard transition. I kind of want to like segue that into something because we were talking about calories and the different things that matter. And, it's a quote that I like to say I said, and then you made it famous.
I gave you credit for it.
And then you did. And it was the calories determine what you weigh, macros determine how you look, and quality or micronutrients determine how you feel. And I loved it because it just made sense to me. And ever since, and I've heard a million people like, oh, I said that 20 years ago. Shut up.
Didn't. No.
It's simple. It is very simple, but that's why I like it because it's very simple. Again, maybe even oversimplified, but it really does kind of put it directly to what it is. And then you said it and quoted me like a good person. And since then, I've seen it
everywhere.
Oh my gosh, it drives me nuts.
Yeah,
I hate that it even bothers me, but I'll see it out there with some half-naked girl with some latest trend music. I'm like, come on, you don't even understand that, much less. Oh, and it frustrates me so bad. But getting back from that frustration, if you use it, quote me. But no, it is so important because this is something that I think gets lost in the weeds, and that's calories do determine what you weigh. And ultimately, that's the only thing that determines what you weigh. It just is. Whether people want to argue that or not, it's a universal law.
Correct.
You eat more calories than you burn, you gain weight.
I'm a dietitian and work with some of the best athletes in the world. These people trust me with their health and performance, and it's up to me to make sure that they're taking advantage of everything they can to be at their best. And I feel the same way when it comes to the general population, because dads, moms, students, physical laborers, and busy professionals all need to do everything they can to perform at their best every single day. That's why I tell everyone I can that a great day starts with a good night's sleep. And when it comes to the best sleep, Tuft Needle has your back, quite literally. Their state-of-the-art mattresses are designed with adaptive foam to give you the perfect balance of support and comfort, whether you're recovering from a tough workout or just need a restful night to tackle the day ahead. They're so confident you'll love their mattresses that they offer a 100-night sleep trial. So if you're ready to upgrade your sleep, visit tuftandneedle.com and use code TruthSerum15. That's Truth_Serum15 to get 15% off and finally wake up feeling energized and ready for the day ahead.
That's just the way that it's going to be, but that only addresses a part of it.
Correct.
You know, in your macros, getting an adequate protein, this is going to determine how you look. You need enough protein, but not all of that. You can lose weight, you can look good, but you're not going to be healthy just based off that alone.
Correct.
And that's where we get into the quality of your food determines how you feel.
Mm-hmm.
The problem is the message that gets lost. People will see people like you who are like, hey, like you can have this food that you really like. Like it's not going to kill you. You can have it. You know, like you can have a glass of wine. But then the fitness influencers, like, oh, you're telling people they can eat horrible, or like you're telling people calories are all that matters. I'm like, that's never what's been said.
Correct.
Like, I've never said that. I know that has to annoy you a bit when people say that.
I mean, it's things like that annoy me less and less. Earlier in my career, like it really bothered me. So like when in 2019, I did the Big Mac challenge, where I ate a Big Mac every day for 30 days, and it wasn't just a Big Mac, but I hated Super Size Me.
Yeah,
it was terrible. It was cherry picked, and there were so many things wrong with it. Not least of which, the title is Supersize Me because he was required to say yes every time they asked him to supersize it. I'm like, what? So you just can't say no? I'm good with this size. Like I have to supersize it. Yeah. It took away a lot of personal responsibility, and then he by his own rules he had to finish everything he ate. It's like, so you can't be like, oh no, I'm full now. Like I don't want to eat anymore. There's a lot of stuff that he did that I didn't like with it. He also like every time he would get like the full sugar regular Cokes. Yeah. It's like they also have water there. You could have gotten that. Like so he could have got Diet Coke, whatever. It's like he deliberately ate in a way to try and gain as much as possible to be as unhealthy as possible. And I was like, this isn't showing. No, and again, in the movie, he says, I want to show what the average American lifestyle is like. It's like, this isn't the average American life. No one's going to McDonald's, or very few people are going to McDonald's 3 times a day. And even on like the second or third day, he ate so much he threw up. Yeah. It's like, okay, so this was a bad experiment. I'm going to do a different one and say, let's just have one meal a day at McDonald's. It's only going to be a Big Mac, and throughout the rest of the day, I'll have my normal regular diet. And ended up losing 7 pounds in a month. And the purpose wasn't to say people need to eat more McDonald's. It wasn't to say that Big Macs are healthy. It was to say that you can enjoy your favorite foods in moderation and still be healthy and live a healthy lifestyle. And I was still exercising and working out. I just wanted people to see like you can enjoy your favorite foods without guilt and without shame. And the research around that is overwhelmingly clear. If you have guilt or shame around something, and I've seen this a lot, where people are like, oh, we need to bring back shaming. We need to bring back guilting. It's like, if you want to be objective and look at the data, shaming and guilting, it can work positively for like 3% of the population. 97% of the population responds negatively to guilt and shame, and that includes the guilt and shame you put on yourself. Yeah. So I got a lot of people within the first 2 weeks of that experiment being like, you're telling people to eat more McDonald's. This doesn't make sense. But by the end of it, and then they actually saw the message, they were like, oh, okay, now I understand what you're doing. Now that makes sense. So it can be frustrating at times, but at this point, when it comes to nutrition and fitness arguments, it means so little to me at this point. I really, and I think it just comes from experience and from time in the industry and time on social media especially. It's like, I used to waste so much time arguing with people, getting in the DMs or getting in the comment section or going back and forth. And it's just like, I could either do this or hang out with my daughter. I can either do this or make another post that's going to help educate people. So it is really frustrating to see how people get riled up and manipulate stuff. But I get more frustrated with that stuff now pertaining to politics and pertaining to like what's actually going on in the world, as opposed to like someone's nutrition information.
Yeah, and we had this discussion earlier over coffee. I've had to kind of dial back myself with that because I just used to get so passionate about my message that when other people just wouldn't even entertain it, I would get so upset. But it's like politics when it's like, I'm not changing your mind. If you have established in your mind that vegetables are toxic, a carnivore diet is the way. Number one, you've established that just in the last few years, so you're an early adopter no matter what.
Yep. Not to mention the guy who wrote the book on it.
Literally.
Has literally given it up and said that it was causing him health issues while he was writing the book on it.
Yes, which is ironic. He wrote the book.
Published
it. If you look at when he started the diet, Paul Saladino, and then when you look at when he wrote the book, he was a new carnivore.
Yes.
Like he was, I wish I had that ability to like immediately form all these thoughts and put them in a book, but I don't have the ability, probably because I have a conscience and that wouldn't let me do that. Early adopters of something should not be writing the manual.
Yep.
We can talk all day about that. But the point is, once someone has established that, I said that to someone, it's like, listen to what you're saying.
Yep.
You were saying that vegetables are toxic. Like, this conversation's over.
Yeah.
Like I can't, there's no sense I can talk into you once you have established that as a thought process.
Correct. How many people do you know who got fat from eating vegetables? How many people do you know who've been admitted to the hospital for fucking vegetables? Let's just, come on, don't be an idiot.
Yeah, I've said no one has been in a hospital on their deathbed from an obesity-related illness that said, you know what my problem is? I ate too much fructose. It was the fruit, it was the red meat, it was the toxic vegetables, and it was the Diet Coke.
Yep.
Like that doesn't happen. All these things that some diet says you should avoid.
Correct.
No one was on their deathbed because of those things.
Correct.
And it was never a singular thing. It was, like I didn't really work out a whole lot.
Yep.
I stressed all the time. I didn't sleep good. I drank a lot.
Yep.
I did have a diet mostly of ultra processed foods. It's and again, not to say that those inherently are bad, but again, we talk moderation.
Yep.
And that's the thing. And it gets.
Never checked my blood pressure. When I was told my blood pressure was high, I didn't get on medication because I just didn't want to be on medication my whole life. When that medication actually probably could have saved your life. Change your lifestyle, get better sleep, have a little bit less alcohol, maybe have some more fiber, stay hydrated. Like it wasn't the steak and it wasn't the blueberries. Neither of those were the things that caused you to have heart disease.
The fact we have to have that conversation, like I never thought I can wrap my head around plant-based. I can. And I'm an avid hunter.
Yeah.
Like most of what I eat is something that I took its life. Just being, that's it.
Yeah.
And I'm very honest about that and the language I use with that. No, it's murder. It is. You killed an animal.
Yeah, of course.
I think it's important to wrap your head around that because the moment I have decided that I am going to eat meat, I like to know that I had a hand in it. Like I was the one that chose to take that life and I was the one that then did that. I took their personal responsibility instead of passing that to someone else.
Yeah.
I do take pride in that. And I know that by itself might get this entire
It's only
podcast
controversial
off
to
of Instagram.
people. It's controversial mainly to hypocrites. The only people who could actually be upset by that are actual vegans.
Yes.
But ironically, vegans actually support it more than the people who are in the middle. The people who go to the grocery store, they pick up their meat and they just go back and they don't have a part in actually killing it, the animal, and harvesting the animal. They don't have a part in cleaning the animal, understanding how this actually can help the environment. I've hunted, and the people that I was most surprised that had the best response were vegans because they were like, it's more of an ethical kill. The animal had a good life. They would prefer people actually went out and hunted rather than just going to the store after this factory farming. And you don't know what life the animal had. Usually a terrible life.
Yeah.
So it's the people who get mad about hunting are usually hypocrites.
It's usually meat eaters.
Yeah.
It is. But back to the thing, I can wrap my head around plant-based because if you tell me that, if I'm like, listen, I can't eat meat because I feel bad about animals. I can get
Makes
that.
total sense.
Yeah, I can wrap my
You're
head around
super
that.
empathetic. I get it.
Yeah. Do I think it's the ideal diet for you? No, but you have established that might matter less to you.
Correct.
Than that. And I'm like, man, I get it. That's
and I
fine.
respect that.
Yeah.
I very much respect it. I don't do it. I really love meat. And I would also think that's what we're made to eat. So it's I'm going to keep eating it. And I also think I think that's what we're made to eat. I think it's going to help fuel our performance, fuel our health. but I absolutely respect people who are willing to say, you know what? I think ethically this is a problem and I'm not going to do it. And they go out of their way. My videographer is vegan and like he goes out of his way, him and his wife, they go out of their way to make sure that nothing they eat has come from an animal, which is like, it makes their life way more difficult, but they're so passionate about it that it's like, hey, this is like super important to me, even more than anything else. So I'm like, huge respect.
Yeah. One thing about someone like, well, I don't eat meat. And I'm like, okay, well, but I'll eat fish and chicken. Like,
that doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah, unless they're just like, well, meat, like red meat doesn't agree with me. Like, okay.
Yeah,
but I've had people like,
good.
I don't like taking an animal's life. I'm like,
but you eat fish.
You know what a fish is like? It's to be honest, like we're pulling that thing, we're drowning it with oxygen.
Yeah.
And then someone's like hitting it in the head.
Yep.
To knock it and to then cut into it. I'm
Correct. That doesn't make sense.
Yeah, no, I don't get that. I can't wrap my head around that. You know who my favorite people to talk to about diets and nutrition and fad dieting is Christians, and I'm a Christian.
Okay.
So I love discussing with them because I was recently on a flight back from Abu Dhabi from working with Max Holloway, and I was sitting next to a pastor who was there on the trip. He was doing like this marriage counseling
cool.
thing there. It was a really cool guy. And like I saw the book he had when I was there, and I asked him something about it. So we got to talking, and I told him what I did for a living. I'm like, I'm a dietitian. I work with professional athletes, general population. He's like, can I ask you some questions? I know it's your business. I'm like, I can talk the whole trip. So you make sure that you're ready to talk if you want to talk nutrition, because I'm passionate about it. The easiest way to get a free consult with me is just ask a question when you see me, because I will discuss it. I love it. But he starts telling me about what he's done and it didn't work. And I was like, you're a Christian, right? Like, you believe that, God created you, put you in a garden, gave you dominion over animals. All this, like, well, yeah. I'm like, didn't he tell you like the diet to follow?
Yeah.
Just kind of looks at me. I'm like, this guy had followed carnivore for a bit, like most people do, for a little while.
Yep.
He had tried plant-based for a little while.
Yeah.
And I'm like, man, like, I just think it's really weird that you think God would put you in a garden full of all these toxic things. He just kind of looks at me and like, or he would give you dominion over animals, then tell you not to eat them.
That's really funny.
Yeah, and I have a conversation with Christians all the time.
That's really funny.
And I put them to it. Like I'm being a little condescending, but funny about it. But it just kind of hits them.
I like that.
Yeah, and I'll say things like, I'll get them with that. And
that's some real like East Coast humor. I like that. It's like a little bit in your face. I like that a lot.
That's and I live in the Bible Belt.
Yeah. So that's a little bit aggressive for the Bible Belt.
Yeah, it's easy to find someone. 9 out of 10 of the people that ask me nutrition questions are going to at least identify as Christians. So it's easy for me to get them with that. But it really is. I mean, people, even if if you don't believe, like say like you believe in just evolution, no theistic part of it, all this, well then I can still argue it to you. It's like why do we have
these teeth?
Yes. Like if we weren't made to eat meat or plants, we would have evolved out of these teeth. Like our structure will look very different.
Correct.
Like our body will adapt to the needs and
if it's toxic, you die.
Yeah.
We wouldn't have made it this far.
Yeah, and people will say like, well, plants have these toxins because they don't want to be eaten, so that means we shouldn't. I'm like, well, animals have antlers and teeth and claws because they don't want to be eaten. But we found a way around that.
Yes.
Like we don't look at that and be like, hey man, you don't really want to be eaten. Maybe we should touch that guy.
Yeah.
No, we put an arrow or a bullet through it. Just being honest. So plants, what do? We cut it and we cook it.
Yep.
I've still got my Papal's hammer from the 1960s, and 6 decades later, it still looks and works as good as any I've bought since. Because it was made with excellent American craftsmanship and designed to last a lifetime. A knife should be no different. Andy Arabito, Navy SEAL, lifelong outdoorsman, and founder of Half Face Blades, knows better than anyone how important quality and American craftsmanship is when it comes to making a good knife. I've used my Half Face blade to process dozens of animals, cut wood to make countless fires, and for basically anything an outdoorsman could use a knife for. Not only is it a tool that stood up to the task, it's done so without damage and with minimal need to resharpen. From the blade to the handle, every aspect of this knife is a work of art, and one that I know, just like my Papal, I'll be able to pass down for generations. These knives aren't just tools that last, they're heirlooms that will last countless lifetimes. They're American made, and as an all-American man, I'm proud that my kids and the generations after them will be able to enjoy this same blade that I've enjoyed so much.
And it's really the same concept.
100%.
Someone will say that's oversimplified, but
No,
it's just not.
It's not.
You can say that,
That's
but you
a
can't
fact.
say that with evidence.
If they believe in evolution, great. Well, they've evolved in order to try and to survive so that you won't eat them.
Yeah.
Whether it's a process that's going on inside chemically, whether it's a process in how they, like a bird being able to fly, animals being able to survive underwater, we can't survive underwater. Like any of these things, it will do whatever they can do to survive.
Our very if you were alive today, it's because you have, and even as a Christian, I believe in, I'll call it adaptation because it gets weird when you start saying, I believe in what I would call theistic evolution.
Yep.
I don't think of God as a magician that just,
Right.
I think of God as the master scientist.
Yeah.
Who created these things knowing it would adapt and change
Yeah.
the environment we created. But it's like if you are going to, like, we are here today because our body has adapted and evolved to be able to eat these things.
Correct.
Like if at any point, there's more plants than us. There's more animals than us. Like if we weren't meant to do those, we would be gone.
Yes.
They would have out-evolved us.
Correct.
But it's getting people to understand that is difficult. And we talked about kind of the goal of how social media can be good, but that is one of the worst things social media has done. It has given, it's good and bad, but it has given everyone a voice.
Mm-hmm.
And it's become the new expert.
Mm-hmm.
It is like everyone, and I don't even mean it as a bad thing. Like every influencer is now an expert.
Mm-hmm.
And that can be problematic. But to be fair, I'm a registered dietitian. I'm the one that's supposed to sit here and be like, you're not a dietitian. Why are you talking on nutrition?
Mm-hmm.
I'll be honest. The best voices that I know on health and fitness, and I'll consider you one of these people, like the best voices for health and fitness aren't dietitians.
Mm-hmm.
But the worst aren't either.
Correct.
And that's kind of, so a lot of dietitians are in this lukewarm area.
Yep.
Where it's like, we know the evidence, we know this, but we also don't want to, when I say I'm not one of these, I love doing this. But a lot of dietitians, they don't want to go out there and figure out what the fitness influencer has and spend time figuring out, well, how do I use the algorithm to educate more people? And I wish dietitians would do that. That's how you reach people.
Unfortunately, it's a catch-22, and there's issues on both sides. On one hand, you could say it's not social media's fault, it's the people who are spewing the bad information. But it's not entirely accurate because the algorithm will favor people who are more extravagant, to say the least, the people who have the most outrageous claims. Because when someone is saying something outrageous, people are going to pay more attention to it. They're going to be drawn into it. They're going to, like if someone's saying something outrageous, and this is basic marketing, you have a unique hook to a common problem. If you're saying something unique they haven't heard before, well, I need to see what they're saying. I can eat as much as I want as long as I just eat this, but don't eat this. Well, I got to pay attention to that. Yeah. So then the algorithm is going to prop that up, and it's going to drown out the stuff that seems more commonsensical, that's not as outlandish, that's not as unique, the more common sense-based advice. That stuff will be drowned out by the more outlandish things. But then again, if the people weren't making those outlandish claims, then the algorithm wouldn't promote it. So it's both of them are creating the problem, and they're feeding off of each other. And the thing about an RD, or what you'd hope with an RD, really with anybody, you'd hope an RD would be not only knowledgeable enough, but have enough of moral and ethical clarity to not go down the outlandish claims route. Some of them do, but the vast majority of them don't. Just like there are good and bad in every industry, and most industries, like the bad apples are a small percentage, but they stand out because the bad apples are the ones that make the news stories. They're the ones that really stand out because that's what the algorithm and even news media promotes as well. So it's really a problem on both sides.
I can tell you, as someone who, I've worked with fighters for 13 years. I've done fighter, actually longer than that. My first UFC client was 13 years ago.
Oh, wow.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
And when you consider I'm 36, I'll be 37 next month. And I started testing things on myself when I was 19. Been in this a long time. So just to be honest, I was practicing nutrition with people before I was a dietitian. But since then, I've got a Master of Science in Human Nutrition. I'm a registered dietitian. So I have been part of what the influencers want to say, oh, you're big food, big pharma, you're paid by the, no. If a dietitian is coming out and pushing a certain narrative, they've kind of chose that themselves. They kind of believe it. Because I can tell you, or at least with the University of Alabama, like looking at the information that I learned and looking at, honestly, the nutrition guidelines for Americans, the healthy people, all of these things are actually really solid information. And it's actually more strict than what gets put out there. Even, a big thing that dietitians love to use, and I'll be honest, I think it's because it's late. I think it's lazy. It's the intuitive eating. I think that to me, that is lazy on a lot of times. I'll draw back and save myself from that comment. But even in our own guidebook, it says that intuitive eating is not evidence-based for weight loss. It's not proven to result in weight loss. So you can say that. I'm like, well, I'm not saying it doesn't work. But the fact is, some people need intuitive eating because they don't need to be losing weight. That's not their goal. Intuitive eating can be a really good way to help you establish good food relationships. It can be a good way for, someone recovering from an eating disorder. Or someone to then learn how to manage their hunger levels on, and then bring back into calorie counting or something like that. But a lot of people in the industry have gotten to a point where they're a little bit too heavy on this health at any side, all foods fit, all this. And honestly, it's because it's lazy and it's easy. Because it's easier to make friends on social media when you have that attitude.
Of course.
It's easier to do that. When the truth of the matter is, in moderation, as you say, and as you promote on your platform, like those things are okay, but let's not sit here and pretend like there doesn't need to be some guardrails. If you don't want to gain weight and you're not just really good at intuitive eating, and the fact our intuitions have been hijacked by food marketing and taste of food, good luck following your intuitions. That's not the world would be a much better place if we all just had good intuitions. But it's silly to think that to be healthy, you don't have to put in some rules.
Of course.
Calorie counting or, the hand portions or whatever you want to use there has to be some guardrails there. And we learn those. You learn to put people on those things. Unfortunately, RDs are kind of seen as the opposite of that now because they've just kind of adopted that. But that's not really the teaching.
Let me ask you a question, and you have to be really honest about this. Have you learned more from actually working with people and your own self-study or from going to higher education? Where did you learn the most helpful practical information?
It's actually easy to answer, if I'm honest, myself. But where I'll put the caveat there, and going back to when I talk about some of the best voices in nutrition and fitness aren't dietitians, that doesn't mean they're personal trainers who took a certification and left it alone. It's people who have dedicated their life to studying it. They are still studious. They're
forever students.
Yes, and they're looking in the right places. They're not. When people say I did my research, I'm like, you didn't do research. You searched for your own biases on Google and YouTube.
Went to YouTube University, or even you read a New York Times bestseller. It's that's not research.
No. In fact, research is believing something and then doing everything you can to prove that wrong. But anyway, I learned a lot of mine on my own. Where I think it was important and where it can't be said enough, I do think it's important for someone who's wanting to have a career of nutrition, is I learned so much more on the clinical side that I didn't know.
Can you give me an example?
And it's
something that stands out.
And to say it's not, before that, it's I can sit here and say, well, I don't work with clinical nutrition, so it's not that important. But you don't need clinical nutrition until you tell someone the wrong thing, and then you're in a clinical situation. And then when I look at my practice with weight cutting, things like that, I didn't learn anything about weight cutting.
Of course not.
No, of course not. But you do learn about fluid balance and things like that when you start to translate those into that.
I bet you knew that before you went to school.
I did. But again, that's because I'm one of the first people in kind of the weight cut.
Correct. To make a science out of it.
Yes. So again, like when a lot of people were looking at, like how can I sweat more? I'm looking at, hey, like how can I work with antidiuretic hormones to make me sweat more with less stress or how, I was looking at the physiology behind it because I'm a nerd. I was much more of a nerd than I was a bro. So that helped me.
I think higher education, especially like if we're getting into these like RDs and Master of Science, can be they have pros and cons, and different schools and different departments are better or worse depending on where you go. I think they can be really good for people who need that accountability and they need like, hey, I'm going to pay this money and I'm going to go to school and this is going to hold me accountable to get this done. For someone like you, you're going to learn it anyway.
Yes.
Now, to be fair, you're not the majority of people.
Exactly.
So I don't think the vast majority, I think the vast majority of people who really want to take it to a higher level, they would need that and benefit from it. I'm also, and I have a huge bias against higher education for many, many reasons, but I think that it's important for people to know that if they want to, they can do it on their own, which is in the same way, like it's the same reason why you and I give out free information publicly. We think everyone deserves and should have access to all the information they want in order to succeed. Does that mean that hiring you is a bad idea? No, some people need that accountability. Some people are going to benefit from working with a coach and you telling them exactly what to do as the individual. But we put all the information out there, so for people who are motivated enough, they can figure it out on their own. So I think it's just important for anyone out there who is like, you know what, maybe I don't want to spend the money on school. Maybe school might not be for me. You can do it on your own. I think that's the message that I wish I had before I went to college.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. And there is some legality aspects that you just need to pay attention to, but you can do that. You can change people's life without ever getting into that area of being illegal because you don't have an RD. And I'll speak to the RDs, like aspiring RDs or current. Actually, I'll really put the feet to the fire of current RDs. Just because you got that done, you can't just like hang your hat, I'm done.
Exactly, yes.
That is terrible. And that's why, you'll still see RDs saying things, and I'm like, listen, that's decades old. That's not a real thing.
Correct.
Like we know that's not real anymore.
Correct.
And that's the problem. So like it really, the ultimate to me is like a good balance. But the problem is, it seems like with anything, there's extremes on both sides. You get one or the other. Dude, I have dealt with dietitians, and it's part of one of the reasons I wanted to finish mine, because I have an ego when it comes to that. I hate this to admit this, but the minute I had illness, RDN next to my name on social media.
Sleep is the ultimate performance enhancer. It doesn't really matter what your goal is, getting more sleep is the cornerstone of achieving it. And it's so important that quality sleep by itself increases lifespan. Sleep better, perform better, live longer. It's pretty simple. As a dietitian, jiu-jitsu black belt, outdoorsman, husband, and father, these things are pretty important to me, and I would imagine they're probably important to you too. That's why I professionally and personally recommend Protekt Rest. Protekt Rest is a natural sleep aid crafted to promote deep restorative sleep so you can recover faster and perform better. With clean, science-backed ingredients, it's designed to support your body's natural rhythms without any grogginess the next morning. And the best part is, it doesn't cause any of the harmful effects that prescription sleep aids and melatonin do. So if things like improved performance and a longer, healthier life matter to you, try Protekt Rest and start sleeping better now.
The respect I got from people who had disrespected me before, like I've had people that once I got that, like followed me on social media and stuff. I'm like, there's no chance. I promise you. I'm not going to name them.
Are they other like professionals in the industry?
Yes, that I had tried to talk to before that just snubbed me.
Interesting.
And I'm like, it's not a chance I'm following you back.
Interesting.
100%.
You know what's funny about that is those aren't the people that are going to pay your bills.
No.
Those are just random people who like are other people in the industry. It's funny because the number of people I can count on like 2 to 3 fingers how many times in my almost 20 years of coaching an actual person who would become a client asked me for qualification. The only people who have asked me about qualifications are people who have higher education. We're like, well, what do you have? Where'd you go to school? It's like, I don't give a shit. You're not paying my bills.
Exactly.
And like you said, some of the best coaches I know, no degrees. no degrees, no certifications. They've just worked their asses off to study, which is one of the greatest benefits of living in this time is there's almost too much information, but if you want to learn and study, you want to figure it out, it's all freely available. Yeah. Whereas before, you had to pay. You had to pay a fortune to go to college to get that information. And now, and this is one of the greatest arguments for free markets, is like people are learning and they're putting out amazing information and they're making it available for people, regardless of their economic status, regardless of where they've come from. Anyone has that opportunity.
Yes. And again, gosh, I might lose my Academy membership for saying this. But for instance, I have no affiliation with Precision Nutrition. I don't have a certification for Precision Nutrition. Yep. Nothing. I do have their textbook. Yeah. Because I have
it's a good textbook.
I have Paul Saladino's book. If I disagree with you I still got your book.
Yeah.
Like I've followed your diet. I've been carnivore. Like I've tried it for 30. I will try everything.
I tried it for 2 weeks. It was awful.
It was terrible.
It was so bad.
But I will it's like you quit at the right time because it's like in that first 2 weeks when you're still like, I feel great. I'm like, no, you don't.
Dude, no.
No, you don't.
Felt like Satan was coming out of my asshole. It was terrible. It was so bad. Like zero fiber. Like, what is this?
Every carnivore dieter is listening. They're just thinking he's weak. He didn't last beyond that. I'm like, shut up, because you were smart enough not to. But I am like, again, literally no affiliation with Precision Nutrition. Never spoke to them, but it's like it's a solid,
it's great
thing. And I can tell you from my own, like,
I got certified through them when I was 21.
Nice.
I was in college.
Yeah.
I was in college and I was in my dorm room. And I was actually first, I signed up and I was in my nutrition class. It was my sports nutrition class. And I had my computer open because you had to like get in.
Yeah.
So I got in. And then it was like a Friday or Saturday night. Everyone was going out drinking. I was like, screw it. I'm going to take the exam. And they have a phenomenal certification.
Yeah. And they actually, from like I said, I got the textbook because I wanted to see. I was like, dude, they're giving some, like they get into the physiology. They really get into the science of it.
And the videos as well. So I don't know if you have the video.
All I did was a textbook.
Dude, they do a really one. And I think the best part is, and I have no affiliation, like I got certified. I haven't re-upped my certification. I was like, I'm good with one. Yeah. But from what I've seen from their information, they continually update their knowledge as well. They're like, hey, so we used to say this. Now we've changed based on the research. So this is actually what we promote now. They used to be like very anti-calorie counting. Now they understand it's a good option for many people. Yeah. So I like that they're always changing their minds based on more research.
Yeah. There's things out there. But I will say, like, just because you get a Precision Nutrition certification, it's not like time for everyone. I'm like, okay, I'm a nutrition professional. I'm like,
no. You still have to do a lot more.
But it's going to give you the information that I do think it's giving you enough information to start helping people.
100%.
Especially as like a personal trainer or someone that it's like, listen, the fact that, again, RDs, I'm the last person that should be saying this. RDs get so mad when personal trainers try to give nutrition advice. I'm like, I get your frustration, but at the same time, that's the person they're with for health and fitness.
Yep.
So instead of us being so mad that there's a personal trainer that might be giving out nutrition information, let's just find ways to be happy about the ones that are giving out the good information.
Yeah. And I bet there are RDs who give out exercise advice.
Oh, 100%.
I bet they're like, well, maybe you should do this for activity and this for your workouts. It's like, did you get a fucking personal trainer?
Absolutely. Yeah.
If you're okay doing that, which, by the way, it's because it all makes sense. It all goes together. If you're working out, you're going to know what to eat. If you want to figure out what to eat, you're going to know what to exercise. Rather than being angry at these people, maybe you should encourage them to learn more and get good information. It's like, your clients, your patients are going to ask you.
Yes.
They're going to ask you. So you better just be knowledgeable. And rather than saying, I can't talk to you about that, how about you fucking learn so you can actually help them?
Yeah. And I could talk all day about the people I get more frustrated with more than I get more frustrated at personal trainers or anyone is doctors. Doctors will give some of and this isn't all. I have some friends that are doctors who they have like made it because they recognize they're going to get asked about nutrition. They recognize the power they have.
Yeah.
So they want to wield it correctly. So they study nutrition. They put the time and energy in. Yes. Because some of the worst nutrition information I have ever had clients bring to me came from their doctor.
Yep.
And I'm like, you realize your doctor took like community nutrition,
yeah,
maybe one other nutrition course, and that's it. Your doctor knows about WIC. Your doctor knows about some old outdated research.
Dude,
they might know a few.
The number of people I've had tell me that their doctor told them to avoid carrots because of the sugar. Like, and this isn't one doctor. I've heard this numerous times. Like, what fucking course did this doctor take that they're saying avoid carrots because of sugar?
I got tomatoes
a
couple months ago. I'm like, what is your...
How many people do you know who got fat from tomatoes and carrots?
Yeah, and it's I know, like, follow your doctor to the break room. I'm curious what they ate. I'm like, what are you talking about?
As they're having a Snickers bar, like, you got to avoid the carrots.
Yeah, and I've said it before. I'm like, hey, like I had someone once. They're like they went back to their doctor, and this was fairly recently. They went back to their doctor with the information I had, and now I can wield the initials. I'm an RD. And they went back to their doctor. Their doctor still wanted to argue with me. And the funny thing is, this is an orthopedic doctor. Jeez. I'm like, hey, listen, I'm not about to make suggestions on how you should fix a busted knee.
Right.
Like, because I don't know. Yeah. Like, I'm going to tell you what you should do. Like, hey, you should go to an orthopedic doctor.
Right.
I've had 4 knee surgery, so I know a lot about hurt knees, but I don't know how to fix your knee.
I'm not going to argue with you about it.
Yeah. So, like, and I told him, I was like, tell your doctor that. So maybe he should quit trying to talk about the things that I'm the expert in.
Yeah.
You know?
Yep.
Especially as an overweight orthopedic. But anyway.
Bro, I didn't know you were a Harry Potter guy. I'm looking at your tattoos. You got Deathly Hallows on there.
Oh my gosh. Dude, this is so Harry Potter. I love that we can just segue into this naturally. Harry Potter changed my life. And I'm not even exaggerating. So I was kind of a bit of a loner, like through elementary school and all this. Didn't have a lot of friends and just a lot of anxiety and you know that, yeah. I had a teacher, my 5th grade teacher had just been to the UK and got that book when it was The Philosopher's Stone.
Yeah.
It wasn't even in America yet.
Yeah.
And she was like, hey, I got this book. I really think you should read it. I think you would like it. Because she recognized I just need something to like put myself into and put my mind into. And so in 5th grade, what are you, like 10 years old, I guess, in 5th grade?
Yeah, I think 10, 10
I think it's
11.
like usually you say kindergarten plus 5 years if you assume kindergarten at age 5. So yeah. So I was like 10 years old, maybe 11. So I'm the age of Harry Potter.
Yeah.
In book 1.
That's amazing.
And I read it. I loved it. And then it starts getting bigger in America by around book 2 or 3 in the UK. And it's like I'm growing up with these kids.
Yeah.
Like I'm growing up with them, like all this. And I was reading these books and it was so fascinating. I cannot wait till my kids, like I can read it for my kids.
I'm so excited for that.
Yeah,
like,
I'm so pumped.
At night in bed, we're gonna read 1 chapter at least every night. I'm so excited for that.
This is great. So you know what I did? No one watching this is going to be like, I thought I would get this out of this. What I did is when book 2 came out, I went back and read 1, then 2, then when
every
3
time.
come out,
same. I did the exact same thing.
That's great,
dude. Here, like I almost got a phoenix tattoo. Like. And I still might one day.
I love
but
it.
Dude, Harry Potter changed my life too, man. It's like J.K. Rowling is an absolute genius.
She is.
There's so many things woven within there.
It's not a story. And this is what I tell people. It's not a story. Gosh, I hope somehow J.K. Rowling sees this. She's on my list of like, when anybody's like someone you can meet, like who's the top 5 people you can meet, she's there.
She's incredible.
I want to meet her.
Yeah. She'd be great to have on the podcast.
Oh, yeah, dude, if I could get to that, if I could ever get to the level where she wanted to talk, I would love that. Because again, it changed my life. Because she didn't create a story, she created a world.
100%.
This is controversial. It might be the most controversial thing I ever say. Star Wars doesn't touch it.
No, not even close.
When you come to
I get mad when people say it does. No.
It is. Like because she created every aspect that is important in our own lives. There's a banking system. There's a whole world around sports.
Yes.
There's socioeconomic status differences. There's class systems. She covers all this.
The details are unbelievable.
It's unreal. When I went to London and I did a Harry Potter walking tour.
Yeah.
That was a tour based off of her inspiration for the books.
Oh, interesting.
Had nothing to do with the movie.
Yeah.
So and ironically, I didn't do this on purpose, but my Airbnb was in Diagon Alley.
Really?
Like the actual.
Oh, that's awesome.
And I was over the divination place.
That's
that inspired.
awesome.
Oh, it was so cool.
That's really cool.
Oh, it was. So it's like you saw the place. Like this is where she got the idea of Hogwarts. This is where she got the idea of Diagon Alley.
Yeah.
So you have Diagon Alley. If we're going this deep into the weeds on this, you have Diagon Alley, and then diagonally from that, there's this other alley that's very dark. the sun doesn't hit it as much.
Yeah.
So he's like in the book,
Yes.
when Harry Potter's doing, he diagonally, but he says diagonally.
Yeah.
So he goes to the other
Diagonally.
one, and it's nocturnally.
Nocturnally, yeah.
But what's cool is like all the locals have embraced that. So now when you go down what inspired nocturnally, there's like skeletons in the windows.
Oh, really? Oh,
yeah.
I love that.
It's so cool. That's man, I'm too. This segues into something I want to discuss anyway. It's like when you're talking about like how excited you are to share that with your kids.
Yeah.
My oldest is 7, so it's
Yeah.
like he's right
Close.
there on the brink.
Very close.
And now they have the picture book versions.
Oh, yeah,
and I've
yeah.
already got those, so
Yeah.
it's the same story, but there's a picture
That's
on
awesome.
every page.
So it must be like this big.
Yeah, oh yeah, they're pretty thick. Yeah, it's pretty substantial.
I read the first book, or I didn't read it. My mom read it to me when I was 7 or 8, because I'm only a few years younger than you. So I remember I was so jealous because in 2nd grade, Will McCartney came in and we had Halloween, and on Halloween he dressed up as Harry Potter, and he had this old broomstick with Nimbus 2000 on it, and I was so jealous. I was like,
Nimbus.
damn it, like that's such a good idea. So, and that was in 2nd grade, so it must have been in 1st grade that I read the first book with my mom.
That's great. That's so it was my mom when my teacher gave it to me. My mom actually read it before me because my mom was one of these like super involved, and like I said, I come from a Christian family. My mom, even though it wasn't big in America yet, she had already like read some of the like, oh, it's witchcraft.
Yeah.
So my mom wanted to read it, and she's like, this is great.
Yeah.
Like, she was fine
That's
with me
awesome.
doing it. But it is like I'm so pumped. I don't know that my kids are quite ready. Maybe
They're making a TV series about it.
I'm so excited because they're breaking down every
book
year.
into a
Every book
season.
and year into a full season.
That's what they need to do. And I think that's one of the greatest things that's happened with TV over the last few years is in a movie, you've only got 2 to 3 hours or so.
Yeah.
Now you could spend an entire season on one book.
Yes.
It's oh my gosh.
Hey, spoiler alert if you've not read the books, but it's like, let's dive into the fact that Neville could have been the chosen one.
Yes.
Let's dive into that for a little bit.
Dude, you want to have a real conversation? You want to have a real conversation about this? Okay, this is so. I'll start by saying what's the actor's name who played Snape? I forget his name. Rest in peace. One of the greatest actors of all time. Alan Rickman. Alan Rickman, one of the most amazing actors of all time.
One of the best characters.
Just like rest in peace, amazing. And Snape is one of the best characters, but he's a real piece of shit. And I'm going to show you. I'm going to prove this to you right now.
I don't think I'm ready for this.
You're not ready for this. And it's actually exactly based on what you just said. People think, oh, Snape is so great. Snape is so great. Man, Snape. Why do you think Snape is great? We'll talk about this first.
I think because his love for someone he couldn't have was still he cared about Lily Potter so much that even though he couldn't have her, he was willing to protect her son in like the wake of her death. She died. He's like, listen, I'm still going to protect your son, even though it's not my son, even though it's not.
So the way I think a lot of people say, but he converted to the good side before the fall. But here's the thing. He only switched to the good side because Harry was the chosen one. Because Voldemort said he was going to kill Harry and the Potters, and he wanted to protect Lily. If Voldemort said, I'm going to kill Neville, he wouldn't have ever switched.
Never thought of that thing.
It's a real mind fuck. Because if Voldemort had said, I'm not going to go after Lily, I'm not going to go after James, I'm not going after Harry, Snape never would have switched.
Yeah. Wow.
And he's also a real piece of shit to the kids. He's mean to all the kids. He's like picking on these, doesn't mean he didn't do good things, but that whole concept really made me change my mind about Snape.
Dang.
Right?
That's again, this. Yeah, I'm sitting here thinking about that. I'm like, I still like him.
Yeah.
You're not going to change my opinion of him but it's going to change my views of, I've never thought about that.
It doesn't mean like there's such an amazing character arc with him, and he did great things, but his initial reason for turning to the good side was very selfish in and of itself, and he wouldn't have done that if Lily would have lived.
Dang, that's true.
Harry Potter.
Yeah, that's an interesting. Hey, you know what? You know another. We don't have to talk much about this. You watch The Office?
Yeah, I've seen every episode way too many times.
Same. So many times. I hate Jim Halpert.
I agree with you. He's too complacent.
He's terrible. Like and there's so many women who just like, oh my gosh, I'm like,
you wouldn't like that guy in real life.
No, the whole premise, his whole character on the show is he loves this woman who's engaged so much that he's going to manipulate all these other women to make her jealous.
Mm-hmm.
And then at the moment he kisses this engaged woman.
Yep.
Her fiance finds out about it, tries to fight him, and he gets married at the engaged woman that he kissed.
Yep.
And then he finally gets the woman.
Yep.
So then it's you're kind of like, oh, like good for him. And then Pam finally becomes a little bit selfish after Jim's been selfish this whole time, and she doesn't like the idea that he's traveling so much and he's doing this business it's
being more aspirational.
Hard.
Yeah.
It's hard on the family, and she doesn't like that. So then people are watching like, well, Pam's I'm like, she deserves this a little bit, like she deserves to be a little bit mad at Jim.
I didn't like either. So I didn't like either of them. Like in terms of the acting was great, amazing actors, amazing, like overall really good. I didn't like either of the characters from that perspective. Like they weren't characters to look up to, if that makes sense. Like when I'm looking at who these characters are, there's really no character in the entire show where I'm like, I want to aspire to be that person, which to be fair, it's The Office. It's just like that might be just what the show is about. There's no character in the entire show where I'm like, that's someone who I aspire to be like. Even Jim, for example, he's just so complacent. And when he's bored, he just picks on this other dude in the office. And it's funny as an onlooker. And I love the show. Like I'm obsessed with the show. But it's annoying that it's like, man, you're just gonna have the same ham and cheese sandwich every day. You're not gonna like go after anything. You're not gonna like try and be better. And as this show goes on, his arc is like, okay, now I'm like, I want to do more. I want to provide for my family. That's great. But there are deeper things underneath where it's like, I don't really like that.
Yeah, man, it's more deep. Gosh, if I'd known you were a Harry Potter guy, we would have just started with that. That would have been.
I'm sitting here. I'm like, dude's got the Deathly Hallows. And I was like, oh, he's got a wand. He's got the firebolt.
The stars that are on every single page.
Yes.
You got the Harry's glasses and the lightning bolt scar and the Deathly Hallows.
I love that.
I got that in the UK.
Oh, did you?
That in the UK.
I like that.
Most of my tattoos were gotten in other places. They mean something.
Does that say?
Says
do not go
gentle.
I thought that's what it said.
Yeah. So the poem.
Oh, there's a poem.
Do not go gentle.
Got it. Okay, I don't know that poem.
Sounds bad. I believe it was Dylan Thomas, but it's do not go gentle into that good night, and it's talking about his dad was dying.
Yep.
And he's telling him like, don't go gentle, don't go without a fight.
Yep.
When it's your time, go, but
like
don't
that.
go easily. And the reason I got it, I had a client, my first client when I was a CrossFit coach. I used to own a CrossFit gym. He was a cop who had recently been in a really bad situation. He went to arrest this kid. But the kid was a wrestler, and the kid ended up like beating him up essentially.
Oh, geez.
Like the cop was, he almost had a heart attack.
Jeez.
Trying to find him because he was, an overweight cop. So that he realized he could have died at that moment. So he's like, I got to change my life around. So he comes, talks to me, joins the gym, decides he's going to lose weight. Let's start nutrition. I also want to train MMA. This guy, he lost 100 pounds in a year.
Wow.
At the age of 40, Dave Chambers, at the age of 40, takes his first amateur mixed martial arts fight.
Holy shit.
Becomes a fighter, and I'm talking just jacked. He's just jacked. I mean, just unreal. Did all this thing. I remember when we first started doing CrossFit together, so I think it was probably 2009. It was like early days of CrossFit.
That's very early. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah. So like we remember when like Murph became a workout that people were doing.
Yeah.
And I remember that Dave said, like Murph was so important to him because Dave was also an Army veteran, Desert Storm, you know, like he was a legitimate dude. And Dave, his number one goal was to one day do Murph RX'd. You know, run 1 mile, 100 pull-ups, 200 push-ups, 300 squats, run 1 mile with a armor vest.
Yeah.
And it's like year one, I think he did a team of 4. So he, you know, did a fourth of a mile, then like 25 banded push-ups, 50 push-ups from his knees, you know, like 50 squats that weren't, you know, I don't remember the amount.
How many chin-ups are you supposed to do?
It's 100 pull-ups.
Yeah.
Kipping, you know, is what people are going to do for that.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not a...
Okay, so it's not 100 strict pull-ups.
No, it's CrossFit, you know. But if you have the body armor on, it kind of has to be.
Yeah.
But that was good.
Oh, you have to do 100 with the...
Oh, yeah, you do the whole workout with the body armor on.
Damn.
Actually, but the whole thing is the workout's called Murph, but Lieutenant Murph, he called it, I think, armor or body armor, because it was actually a workout he used to do.
Got it.
You know, on basis. So it is kind of a cool thing.
Yeah.
We get into the weeds about the problematic, you know, how problematic it is that you have people go and just do it, and it might be their first CrossFit workout, but that's, but it's a cool workout, and there's a lot of community involvement. But anyway, Dave that was his goal. And it was like, he obviously couldn't do it year one.
Right.
He's still losing the weight. And it was like every year he got a little bit closer. And I remember and this dude is just my best friend. I mean, would spend holidays with me and just amazing. So the year that I was just confident he could do it, I was like, are you going to do Murph this year, RX? And he's like, I don't know. I don't know if I'm ready. He's like, I think I might be able to do it mostly RX. I'm like, cool, man. Like, you know, I'm just telling you, I think you're ready, but see what you can do. And he's nervous about it because, you know, like to him, this was everything. It was like his number one goal years before. And he shows up late because he was always late to the gym to do the Murph workout. And we used to have like a big community Murph. So you're talking tons of people there. We'd do a barbecue after.
Yeah.
And he gets out of his car wearing full SWAT gear. He was a SWAT officer.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Full SWAT gear. Gun, helmet, armored plate, pant, like he gets out, and I realize he's about to do this in full SWAT gear. Like RX plus.
Oh my gosh.
And I got emotional because I knew just how cool it was. And he does the whole workout.
That's amazing.
He does. And it was just one of the coolest feats I've ever seen. Unfortunately, like, so after that workout, he took I told him, I was like, hey, take time off. Like, you're going to be hurt. You're going to be sore. I don't want you in the gym for at least a week. Like, go for some walks. Yeah. All this. And he called me and just like, hey, I'm coming to the gym today. It's like a week later. I'm like, all right, cool, man, see you. And then he doesn't show up.
Oh, no.
Just never shows up. And I'm like, that's weird. I'm like, unless like a girlfriend called him or something. He was a single guy. I'm like, unless like a girlfriend called him or something, I can't even imagine. But even that, I don't think a girl would have ever come before a workout with Dave. And like, he just never shows up. I'm like, that's weird. And like right after class, I look at my phone and I see a missed call from a buddy of mine who he would come in and out of the gym sometimes, but not someone I talked to a lot, but he was an EMT.
Oh, geez.
And it kind of, I already knew what I was going to find out when he called and he told me that on his way, Dave was in a car accident. Oh, no. His vehicle had stalled and he'd been hit by a car, and he's still alive.
Thank God.
He's still alive, but he was in a coma for a while and brain dead, and so he's not the Dave he was,
right?
You know?
That's
all that,
so
all the brain
sad,
damage and all that. Yeah, it is, but the thing is, this was on his wall. He had the whole poem on his wall. It was the first time I'd heard the poem and saw it, and he had planned on getting this as a tattoo in this exact same place. He was going to be getting this tattoo a week later. Yeah. And so I went and took his appointment.
That's awesome.
So I got that tattoo for Dave.
Do you still talk to him?
And it's he's not like, he can't communicate. Like it's he can't like communicate like that.
That sucks.
And all that. It does. And he's but he is, I always say, like, I got spoiled. He was my first client. Like, I got spoiled.
Yeah.
Because like after that, you expect that out of everyone. Dave was the one who you sit here and we can segue this into a whole other thing. Dave was the one that made me a bad personal trainer. I tell people, like, well, why? I'm like, Because the reason my first several years as a coach and personal trainer, I was that guy that's like, we all have the same 24 hours in a day. Like, because Dave actually just happened to have that attitude. But that wasn't, Dave was a superhuman.
Yeah.
You know, he was a cop. His name, we call him RoboCop.
Yeah.
Dave RoboCop Chambers. But it kind of had me in that attitude early on. I'm like, well, if anyone can do this, like everyone can do it. Yeah. And I remember as a personal trainer, that used to be my thing. I just thought if you weren't choosing, mind you, at this time I'm battling my own, food, you know, disordered eating and poor behaviors with food and body dysmorphia. I'm dealing with my own things, but I'm sitting here thinking like if you can't make yourself eat, you know, eggs and oatmeal and fruit in the morning, then you're just weak.
Correct.
Like you
don't actually want it.
Yeah. I'm like, you don't want it bad enough.
Yeah.
Like, you know, now I have kids and I'm like, listen, you tell that you can tell that I've trained predominantly men.
Yeah.
You can tell I never trained a mom of a toddler or baby.
Yep.
Because she would have hit me.
Yep.
Like if you sit here and tell, and I still like, I don't know I'm actually curious to learn it. I don't know your coaching relationship with your wife.
Yep.
But my advice that I usually give young fitness professionals when they're getting married, I'm like, you are not your wife's coach.
No.
And you need to understand that now.
Yep. Only if they ask.
Yes. And even then, sometimes, sometimes they already have what they want you to say. You know, like my wife now, like she works out, and this is an important lesson, but she's very fit. My wife's a deep tissue massage therapist. Like you look at her, she looks jacked, like muscular arms because she's constantly working. But I had to learn a lot with her and with that because I'm like, listen, she works from home. Mm-hmm. She has a home office. So it's like on the outside, you can be like, she could easily get 5-6 workouts in a week.
Yeah.
I'm like, honestly, my goal for my wife and what I've had to get her to do is like, if you get 2 to 3 in a week.
It's plenty. And
it's been hard for her too because she used to be a CrossFitter. She was a big runner too.
Yeah.
An athlete. So I had to actually help her figure that out. I'm like, hey, you don't have, like, quit trying to get 5 1-hour workouts in a week because when you fell at that, now you're not getting 3 30-minute workouts in a week.
Yeah.
And now she can kind of understand it. Sometimes she'll just go down because we do have a garage gym. Sometimes she'll go downstairs and do, 3 sets of back squat, and that's it.
Yeah.
And that's just it.
That's great.
And used to, I would have been like, it wasn't even worth it. Oh, that's not true. We actually know that that's not true.
Correct.
100% worth it. But even then, she only has a few clients a day. So people would be like, well, why doesn't she have more time? Because listen, number one, I'm the third child. We have 2 kids. Moms, and I know there's going to be dads out here that are the outliers. They're the exceptions. Maybe they're a single dad, and ultimate respect to any single dad out there because we are not equipped. Like we're just not. Being a dad, I will say, being a dad and being a mom are not the same.
No.
Kids do not act the same way to dads as they do moms.
Yep.
We're not. We're just not the same. Like it's just not. And kids will be rougher with moms. Mm-hmm. They require more attention from mom. Mm-hmm. And by the end of the day, or when it's time for a workout, mom just might not want to have someone jumping on her and talking to her. Mm-hmm. And like you got to understand that.
Yeah.
And that is something I've had to learn, and I've seen with her, and it's made me better when I'm coaching moms and when I'm coaching these people. I'm like, listen, like with everyone, honestly, I'm like, hey, like I need to start working out. I'm like, all right, cool. How many workouts do you know you can do a week? Well, like I think I can get in 4. I'm like, you think? How many do you know you can get in? Do you know you can get 1 30-minute workout in a week? I start with that usually. I'm like, well, yeah. I'm like, do it. Like your goal is to work out for 30 minutes on Monday at this time. I'm like, well, what about the other days? I'm like, if you can, cool, but your goal is just the 1. And then when they kind of laugh at that, but that's the thing. And then next week, do you think you can get 2 in? Well, I know I can get 2 in. Okay, now that's your goal.
Yeah.
And we just layer on the goals. Correct. And I've really learned to meet someone in the easiest, the lowest hanging fruit. What's the easiest goal you can accomplish? Let's accomplish that and accomplish that consistently.
100%.
And then let's add to it.
Yep.
One thing I'll do with clients, not so much anymore because I don't meet in person, but I'll do it over the phone and online. I'm like, make a list of 5 to 10 things you know right now you are doing that are standing between you and your goal.
Yep.
Make me that list. They'll give me the list. And some of them aren't true. Some of them aren't as bad as they think they are. Like, all right, for 30 days, stop doing these things.
Yep.
Before I give you any new information, I need you to change the information that you already know needs changed because you're already ready for it.
Correct.
And I have had so much success doing that.
I like doing that. And then in addition to saying, don't do this, like giving them a swap for it.
Yeah.
So like, this is what you're doing. So instead of doing this one, let's swap it with something else. So like, all right, so if this is an issue, instead of like, just don't do it, let's add this in its place.
Yeah. Yeah. No, because I do agree with that. Like, people need a healthy their habits are habits. So people need to replace it with something.
Yeah.
But you do have to, you have to help people establish, again, people already have these habits. They already have these things. And you have to take those and establish new ones. And again, kind of what I'd said earlier, like your message, you meet people where they're at, and then you help them change from there. And I think that's something you do better than really like anyone I've seen do that. Even if to do that, you have to put on a wig and talk in a woman's voice. Some of the things you do to just reach people is hilarious. But I do know the way that you do the most. You educate through social media for free. That's a free thing. But you do have a paid platform called the Inner Circle. And the way I view it, and tell me if this is wrong, if this is saying it in the wrong way, let me know. But I view things like that, and I'm trying to do like my own similar type thing. I call it like the Planet Fitness model. And what I mean by that is Planet Fitness has a price entry point that most people can afford. If you go to Planet Fitness and you don't change your life, that's your fault.
Yes,
they have
correct.
Everything you need to change your life there.
Yeah.
The difference is like maybe I can't afford a CrossFit gym, but I can afford Planet Fitness.
Correct.
I know you've created the Inner Circle that is coaching, and it's this community that people can have, but it's not got like the higher price point that like maybe hiring a private coach would have. And just talk more about it, because I think it's an awesome thing.
So first I'll say is, if anyone is finding me for the first time, don't join my Inner Circle yet. Like, look at my free stuff. You have plenty of free stuff to go to. Like, you don't need to buy my Inner Circle right off the bat. The pricing model is very I want to make it as affordable as possible for everybody. The difference is when you walk into Planet Fitness, you have a lot of what you need, especially from like equipment, but you don't have guidance. And so for me, as soon as you join, like, you fill out some questionnaires and like it takes you through this whole process. We tell you exactly how many calories, how much protein, how much fiber to have. It's not just workouts, but so you come in, you get your nutrition all set up for you. We've got recipe guides, which my wife is one of the people who makes a bunch of the recipe guides, like fat loss recipe guides. We have recipe guides for people who are plant-based. We have recipe guides for anyone. People want to gain weight. People want to lose weight. We use this. We have a calorie tracker, so the exact same one that MyFitnessPal uses in terms of a huge extra video nutrition database, so you could track your meals, and then also workouts as well. So we have new workouts every month. Some are 3 times a week, some are 4 times a week. You can choose which one. And we'll like ask a questionnaire in the beginning so you can tell like, okay, are you a beginner? Are you more intermediate or advanced? Do you have access do you only have body weight? We have workouts for body weight. Do you only have dumbbells? We have workouts just for dumbbells. Do you have full gym access? We have literally everything, and then exercise video tutorials. My favorite part of the app that I think is probably the most underutilized component in the entire fitness industry is we have a consistency calendar. So this app, like, it's not a white labeled app. It's not like I pay another company and then I put my stuff on their app. It's like, this is made it from scratch, have app developers in the UK who made it, which is wildly expensive, by the way.
Yeah.
But we made our own consistency calendar, which for me, it's the easiest way and most effective way to keep yourself accountable. So, like, my phone's over here. I use it every single day, and you can choose, like, do you want to be accountable or consistent with your workouts, with your nutrition, with your steps, with all of it, with something else. And then if you're consistent that day, you mark it green, and a green circle pops up. A voice memo from me and one of my coaches comes in and will tell you like how you did. If you were inconsistent that day, red circle comes up, and then in addition to that, on the top left corner, you have a score. And so your goal is to score at least 80% by the end of the month. So if it's a 30 days in a month, you want to shoot for at least about 25 days of consistency. That'll be about 80%. But it gamifies consistency. And it allows you to be like, okay, so I was 84% consistent this month. But then the next month, let's say you're 62% consistent. And you're like, well, I didn't lose any weight this month. It's like, well, yeah, you got a D-. That's a D- in school, right? So it's like, of course you're not going to make. So it gamifies it and it makes it very like right in your face. It's like, all right, I was honest with my consistency, but I wasn't as consistent as I needed to be. That for me is like the best part. And I can track people's data. I can track like the people who are the most successful are the ones that track their consistency, which for me, it makes all the sense in the world. So yeah, very excited about that. And like I started it in 2015 and we just continually try and make it better. So that's what we offer.
Yeah, that's a cool thing. I actually had a friend that I bought a membership to it for a while just because I thought it was something that like they could really get and they loved it. Like it was something they could really feel into and things like that. It's such a neat thing because I think community is important too.
Yes.
People need to hear that there's other people dealing because no one is alone. Like there's someone is doing whatever position you're in, there's someone doing more than you in a worse position.
Yes.
And there's someone in a better position than you're doing less.
Correct.
And so I think meeting those people and knowing that is an important thing. So I know you said like follow you, and if anyone follows you, they're going to see that. It's something you advertise and all of that. But I do think it's cool that like you don't immediately you don't sell and you don't even on your socials, you don't sales pitch it.
No, very rarely.
Yeah, I think
very
that's
rarely.
A cool thing.
I'd prefer people come to me and ask about it than me trying to shove it down their throat. A lot of salespeople are like, you got to keep talking about it, keep talking about it. I'm like, I don't like selling.
Yeah.
I hate selling. I don't enjoy it. I like being a coach.
Yeah.
So I'd rather people just say like, hey, what do you offer? And then I'll send it to them than like constantly selling people. It's just annoying.
Yeah, that's interesting. And I did the last thing I want to the last thing I'm going to cover with you, we can talk for hours. What would be your top, because again, I consider you one of the best at this. What would be your top pieces of advice for, we can say like a fitness influencer or even a nutrition or fitness professional who's looking to use the free platform of social media to reach the masses? What are your top recommendations for them?
The number one recommendation is become a really good coach. That's like study, learn. If the majority of your education is coming from Instagram or TikTok or YouTube, you're doing it wrong. Read books and actually invest in your education. Whether you do that in school or whether you do that on your own, but invest in your education and become a great coach first. I see a lot of people trying to become well-known coaches before they become good coaches. And it's like, you need to chill with that, become a great coach first. And then from there, the other thing I see is a lot of gatekeeping. People are like, I'm only going to give you a little bit and then the rest will be on my paid. And people don't understand everything is available for free online, everything. So there's nothing that you know that someone can't find out from someone else for free. Give away everything for free and help everybody as much as you possibly can. People are not paying you for your hidden knowledge. They're paying you because they trust you. And they're going to trust you if you give away and teach them for free. So the reality, people will always need accountability in some way, shape, or form. They're going to pay you to hold them accountable after you've shown them that they can trust you. Don't gatekeep. Give away everything. Everything I do in the Inner Circle, I give it away for free. It's just I've made it more, I have a system now in the Inner Circle that makes it more convenient because I've made that platform. But you could get a calendar on your own. You could get your own calendar and make a consistency calendar, and you could do all that on your own. You could take everything I put out there about workouts and put your own workouts together. I put free workouts out there. You can do it. But if you want it, people are going to pay you for the accountability that you can offer because they trust you from your free content. So just give everything away for free and become a great coach. That's it.
I like that. It's very simple, but it's like I think of like in the past where I did those things wrong, and the more I've done those in my own, I've seen it flourish. One of the best. So the last thing I'll say about myself, like with my own business, is when COVID happened, I lost pretty much everything. UFC shut down, sports shut down, general population, almost everyone quit because there was uncertainty and all this. And I had a guy that I really respect in business tell me, he goes, well, that's because your private coaching was priced at a rate that people who were affected by COVID couldn't afford.
Correct.
I said, so if you want people to not quit in a financial crisis, you have to appeal to the people who have that money.
Correct.
I was like, oh, but I don't want to do that because I'm not that guy.
Yeah.
But I also have a kid on the way.
Correct.
You know, like I need that money. Like I need to survive. So that was why I did. I raised my rates, and then my business did so much better. Then I was like, but now I feel bad. So that's when I started doing the free information and giving out free things there on social media. And that was just more for my own passion for that.
Correct.
But then giving out the free information in turn got me more clients. Yes. It was never intended to, but it did.
So it works.
I've seen that work in my own practice. But yeah, man, like I said, we could talk. I mean, I feel like we could have a whole podcast episode on Harry Potter, one on The Office, nutrition, fitness, you know, fatherhood, everything. And it's cool because these are all things that, like, I didn't know the Harry Potter. You don't talk about that enough on your social media. So I would encourage you. That's my tip for you. But no, it's like the things that you've discussed. It's like things that I kind of knew about you just from following you. And anyone who follows you knows those. You're very real. You talk about the things that every influencer is dealing with struggles.
Yeah.
They don't show you.
Correct.
You'll talk about them.
Yeah.
Like you'll show them. And I think that's so cool. Just the vulnerability. And I think that is the one thing that draws people to you the most. You're just real.
Thank you.
And that's such a cool thing. And people just aren't that anymore. So for me, it's just been cool. And I attribute you to a lot of my own success, not just from things that like you've helped me with. I've asked your advice and you've helped me with things, not just that, but just kind of what I've learned from how you do things and carry yourself from watching you. So I appreciate it.
Thank you, man.
I can honestly say, because when I'm doing better, my business is doing better, my family is better.
Correct.
You know, so like it means a lot to me because those things you've helped me with have directly benefited my family. So as husbands and fathers, you know how much that means. So like, man, I appreciate it. This has been awesome.
Likewise, man. Thank you.
I've had so
we'll
much
do it
fun.
again soon.
I'm already excited for that. Awesome, man. Thank you.
Thank you.
I want to thank you guys for watching, and also a word of thanks to our sponsors who have made this episode possible. All I ask is that you guys please hit the like and subscribe button, as it helps the podcast grow and so we can continue to bring on some great guests for you guys. I'll see you in the next one.